Nice.
Yeah, I just have to get back there. Oh, come on. I need to see this. Okay, there we are. Oh boy, I love it when things go crazy. Technology, you have to love it.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Some days it's a love-hate, but in general, I love it. As long as it works well, we love it. But with those days when things won't connect, and yeah.
Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Mary Sloan with another episode of Inspirational Influencer News, People Making a Difference. And this afternoon, my guest is Rebecca Jensen. And we were just talking about some of the ways people are making a difference. And her husband is up here in my neck of the woods, just between Canada and the United States, and taking out dams so the little fishies can swim more freely. So, we never know how we're making a difference, but I love the people that come on my show. So Rebecca herself is a CPA and legacy consultant committed to helping families create financial legacies that last. With over 30 years experience in tax, estate planning, and business leadership, she helps families use the strategies of the ultra rich to change their own family's financial future. And I remember when I was posting this, she was saying that many families don't keep their money together through fourth generations. So certainly, for the person who started the family inheritance and really had plans for the family and family business and all this inheritance, that must be very devastating. So, Rebecca, what would you suggest is the most important thing that people can do in order to prevent that from happening in their family?
This is something that is kind of I wouldn't say, maybe it's an industry secret or something we just don't talk about a lot, is you can do all the planning in the world, but unfortunately, a large percentage of the loss and legacy, actually almost over 95%, is lost due to lack of planning and community, or lack of communication within the family, or unprepared heirs. So lack of communication and trust, or the people who are getting the money aren't prepared to manage it. And this is, it's really surprising when you worked all those years to create those assets. What we want to do is be able to pass them on and have our family benefit from them for a long period of time. And what we're seeing in reality is that almost all of them get spent and squandered. So I am actively trying to help people find a better way to pass on their legacy. And I guess one of the perfect examples of that is with the Rockefeller family, who started, their original legacy was 11 million. And I was just looking on Forbes this week, and their family legacy now is $380 billion.
Wow.
And yeah, I know, just you look at those numbers, it's just kind of flabbergasting. But one of the things and the reasons that this happened is because Rockefeller's number one rule is they keep the money together. So instead of just passing it on to be spent and frittered away, they keep the money together, grow the principal, and use the income to support the family. And so any of you who've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you're very familiar with this concept. It's, treating your legacy as an asset rather than an income stream. So it's just kind of a little paradigm shift. And this is something the ultra wealthy just inherently grow up with and understand. But a lot of us don't really think about it. We're not trained to think of this legacy as an asset. But with today's financial situations, basically what happened, say, 30, 40 years ago, like our grandparents, and probably a lot of our parents also, when you retired, if you got benefits, they were through Social Security or pensions. You didn't have 401ks. So today, when people retire, they have this big pool of assets in their 401k and retirement accounts that they're living on. And then the cost of real estate and the value of real estate has increased so much that the average tax or the average person now can easily retire as a millionaire. And so if you have $1 million in assets, how is your family going to spend those? And it's such an incredible opportunity for your family, but can be a little bit scary. And and if they don't have the resources or the understanding on how to use this money as an asset, it's very easy for it just to disappear. So that's our big concern.
In the financial world, and I've spent a fair amount of time there trading and in the markets and things. You see a lot of home office and people that do things through their home office. Is that a concept that you teach or suggest, or does that work well, or know
You mean
about it?
like or the family office? So
Family office,
yeah,
maybe.
family office. So that's actually one of the things that our firm does is we basically, I like to treat I think that family office term can be a little bit confusing. So for a lot of people, I like to term it like we're your outsourced CFO for your family investments. So essentially, we can help you manage your money, and put systems and procedures in place to help your family learn and grow and y- use them assets like you would. And it's because they were not the ones that created it. It's really difficult. A lot of times, what I like to say is that it's like when you hand over your assets, it's like a CEO handing over all of their net worth to the guy or the girl or gal or guy or gal who started in the um, mailroom 2 weeks ago and still trying to figure out what the business is about. They don't have this skill. They didn't grow it from nothing, and to expect that our children and grandchildren have those skill sets in place without transitioning them into that leadership role is really accounts for the fact of why we end up losing so much legacy. And there's also some uh, the downside, I guess, of legacy planning is it can be dangerous for unprepared heirs and without proper guardrails. And a friend of mine, she had a grandson, her grandson's friend, who inherited money from his grandmother, and unfortunately, his peer group around him had him or convinced him to use that money for party time. And he, worst case scenario with him, he actually overdosed and died because of grandma's legacy. And, you know, this is really worst case scenario, but this is one of the challenges when you just pass on assets to people who aren't prepared to own and manage them. And we want to, pass it on and make it safe. And the other thing is if you do this transition during your lifetime, there's ways for you to still maintain control of your assets, but help and benefit the younger generation get off to a better and stronger financial start. And we do that through family banks, what I call the family bank. It's not an official bank, but for assets that you do not need for your own personal retirement, we actually have done this even within our family on a small scale with my niece who is bootstrapping a business. I don't know about you, well, you all, but I know a lot of my clients are really struggling to find safe ways to get income, that or decent interest rate on their cash assets. And so in this case, my niece was bootstrapping a business and she had to take money out on credit cards, paying 15-20% in interest on these things. In the meanwhile, grandma was sitting with the cash in her money market that she didn't need for a retirement and was only earning 1/4%. So rather than, we kind of created a win-win. So grandma lent money to my niece at 5% interest. Now grandma's getting a 5% return. My niece isn't paying 15, saved her 10% in interest expense. And she's off to a stronger start on her business because of reducing that expense. So um, I'm always really cautious when you loan money to family. It's got to be money that you don't need. But it's such a huge opportunity because I know some of our young people are really struggling with how to get off to that good financial start, whether it be business startups, down payments on houses. That's a really big one right now.
Oh
Or
boy.
yeah, I know. Well, you just think about it. We when we moved over to our community, um, the median home price was $100,000, and I've been here for 25 years, but now the median home price is close to 500,000. And over in the Seattle area, which is closer to where you are, I saw the median home price in June was over $900,000. So if you're in a young person trying to get into a home, it's almost impossible without some help from the family. And that's one of these ways by creating these family legacies and starting to work together as a family, you can not only provide legacy for later after you're gone, but you can have the joy of helping your family get off, the young people in your family get off to a family a stronger start without just giving them a handout.
You know, it's really interesting because I've seen a lot of immigrant families come in,
Mhm.
and they come in, and there's two or three or four cultures, and I can't even remember to identify them, that are really amazingly good at helping everybody get started. So they live together as a big, 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 colossal family, and everybody chips in until one home is paid for. And then they use that home that's paid off to put a down payment on another home. And then most everybody moves over to the other home and they start paying that one down. And then they do the same thing. And of course, periodically people come in, and periodically kids get old enough that they can go out and get jobs and start contributing.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's a really amazing way to make sure that your family's taken care of. But that, it for some of these is a cultural things. I mean, that's just how they've done it. And
Right.
it's really smart. You know,
It
it's
is
sort of
really
like,
smart.
you know,
Yes.
wow, we should learn, you know, we
Learn
tend to
from
be
that. Yeah.
so independent, like, oh no, I've got to have my own house. Well, why don't we all pool together? We'll all live together. We'll handle it somehow, you know,
Mhm.
and we'll pay off this house, and then, you know, oldest person gets the next house, and then the next person gets the next house, and pretty soon everybody's got a house. You know, it's so smart. And so having a strategy that you can take out there, especially in the crazy prices. I mean, just come a little north of Seattle, where the average price is $1.3 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you see how people that may have lived very modestly during their lifetime are now leaving legacies to their family well over $1 million. So this is not just an issue for the uber rich. And I'm in the Pacific Northwest also. So Washington's estate tax here is it is assets over 2.2 million, or a little less than 2.2 million, we're rounding. um, Oregon is only 1 million. So there's a lot of people that end up with potentially paying large amounts of estate taxes where that normally wouldn't have need to even worry about it a while ago. So so the Waltons actually were the ones that figured out how to do this a long time ago when they set up the original Walton um, business, or the Walmart business. They set it up so that the family owned the business and not just Sam Walton. And by doing that, they estimate that the family saved about 20% per year in income taxes and 80% on estate taxes. So
Wow.
this, yeah, it can be a huge, not just a savings for legacy, it's also people who are involved in businesses or just want to save some taxes. It's really some great opportunities there too. So our rates aren't not quite as different. You know, that back then it was post World War II, and we had some really, really high tax rates, but we can still get some notable tax savings with a lot of these family structures. And these are not new techniques. These are things that the ultra wealthy have been using for years. It's just that most people don't know about them. They're not in have relationships with advisors that know about them. And it's kind of a shame because now the average person is in this horrible tax situation potentially without the advice or skills to avoid those taxes. I actually had one client call me who his mom was 96 years old, and he called me because they just sold her house. She was 96 and in bad health. And so because if you know, they sold it for about $1 million, her just small little house. And because they didn't wait till after she passed away, it cost them, I think we estimated about $180,000 in taxes just by not having advice. If they just waited till mom had passed, it got a step up in basis, they wouldn't have had to pay a dime of that money. So they lost almost 20% of that legacy simply from not being aware of the rules.
And, not being aware of the rules, it's so important. And this is, we get more crazy rules and more crazy rules and more crazy rules on taxes all the time because the governments keep wanting to promise people everything and they have to pay for it. It's kind of like it's great to promise people XYZ, but then you have to pay for that somehow. And so taxes keep going up and up. And then, of course, we've got inflation, and who knows where that is and where that's going and what taxes are going to be to bring that down, or interest rates and all those kind of fun tools where, man, not having somebody who's kind of interested and skillful with all this money stuff and interest stuff and knows the tax rules and knows the tax rules for the different parts of the country, because it doesn't mean that if you live in Washington State, your mother may not, or your father may not, or your grandfather may not, and so I mean, really, it's like the rules have to you can't ignore the rules, or as you said, $120,000 disappears.
Right. And
And nobody
you
sent
don't
them
know.
a thank you card or anything.
Right, I know, and so it just breaks my heart when I hear stories like that, but, because they could easily be avoided, and we're not talking about people trying to take advantage of the system or milk the system, we're just trying to help people use the rules the way they were meant to be used, and if you don't know what you don't know, how are you gonna be able to do that? So, that's one of those things that, before you have a big transaction, I definitely would say talk to your CPA and make sure that you're not making a mistake that costs you money that you don't want to pay. But it's a tough situation. But we're really, my big point is to r- understand that you have an opportunity when you have these homes with a large value, or retirement accounts and things like that, or assets that you've grown over your lifetime, to change the financial future for your family. And a lot of people have been very successful with businesses, and you actually were the person that scrimped and saved and made this legacy happen. And the last thing you want to do is have that just frittered away by your family. And I'm not saying they're going to try to do it in a, deliberately. It's just that they also do not have the financial education. We're really poor about teaching people about managing money, and it's something we're trying to actively work on helping people. And but just a little paradigm shift to saying this legacy is an asset. It is not income. Just make that change and just use the income from that asset to help the family, and not don't spend the principal, and it can completely change your family's financial future moving forward.
We have done such a terrible job in our education systems
Mhm.
of not educating people. I know they did a survey on people with mortgages, and they found that 72% or 73% did not understand why interest rates going up could be a problem for them.
So
It's
actually,
sort of like,
it's really
wow.
funny you said that because we just ran the numbers on my son. So because he's refinancing his house and he's trying to get, he's having trouble getting the appraiser in. So he's going, if I can't get this done, it's going to cost me 1% more. And we ran out the numbers for him, and that's a $200,000 bill if he, paid the whole thing off for the full 30-year term.
Right.
So 1% in his case would have potentially cost him $200,000. So, it gave him a push to make sure to get his stuff together, so he didn't have to pay that additional rate. But it's
Well,
a
and
huge
you
thing.
saw people um, going, oh, well, I've got this, what do they call it? Flex rate or fluctuating
Oh
rate
yeah,
or whatever. And
adjustable rate.
so, yeah, so it's not locked in. Oh my gosh, the minute interest rates started going up, run to the nearest
And refinance.
mortgage broker and go, give me the best rate you can now.
Right, right. And so the average person, not family, the average person placed close to $200,000 in interest expense over their lifetime. So this is where, when we talk about the family bank, if you can help one another and finances purchases, large purchases within the family, essentially pay the family that interest, that's $200,000 that you can be putting back into the family fortune instead of paying to the credit card companies or the mortgage company. So there's a lot of ways this money can benefit you, and also end up, helping you reduce that rate. So $200,000 is a lot of money for no, and that's the average. So that means many people are paying over that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's scary. And
Hmm.
like you say, I mean, if grandma or grandpa have it and they're sitting there and they're getting a 0.5% interest or something on some crazy bond, for heaven's sakes, take it, put it into a house. You can pay them a mortgage on it. Be really generous, pay them 2%.
Yeah, or well, I mean, even if you went up to 4 or 5, I mean, that's what the mortgage rates are now right now.
But
So
what I'm saying is be really
yeah,
generous.
right. And I don't know any retired person that wouldn't be super excited about getting a 5% return on their
Oh, no kidding. No
interest rate,
kidding.
right? Because
Because most of them don't know
cash.
how to get anything beyond that. Well, I've got to have it safe. And
Hmm.
yeah, we've got to have it safe, but it doesn't have to be earning nothing.
Right. Well, and when you lend to family, there is a risk. Nobody can tell you there isn't. But the thing is if it's reported and out in the open and it's part of the family and everyone knows you've got this loan outstanding, guess what? The chances of it getting paid back go up exponentially rather than just a private, because if it's just a private thing within the family between you and that one other person, then the rest of the family doesn't know about it, and you pass on, it disappears. And so they're not ever held accountable to pay that back or take it out of their share of the legacy. And so I like full disclosure. I'm a big fan of complete and open um, talk about money. And I don't know any of you people that are business owners. Is this great book called The Great Game of Business that talks about the power of having open financials, and the same thing can be done within families.
And I think that's a big thing, is to be willing to be open. And I don't know where this, oh, I've got to hide my money from everybody
Mm.
idea came from, because you certainly don't hide it from the people that you might want to hide it from, like Uncle Sam. They know every penny.
Yes, right,
And
right.
but your family, if everybody in the family, now if you want to, tell Sally and not Bill, that's a problem. But if
Right.
you want to tell Sally, Bill, Jill, and everybody else in the family, then everybody knows. And now everybody's in on the game, and there's nobody getting left out. Nobody feels, oh, I do it, yeah, my turn or whatever, you know.
Right.
So,
So, and a lot of that is oftentimes people use money as a yardstick for their success. And to me, having that be the case and money being this big secret taboo subject, all it does is set people up for failure. And money is not a measure of your value to the world. There's a lot of people that deliberately choose lower paying professions because they want to pursue a passion or give something back to the community. And so, we're talking about the family legacy. And the thing that's great about it is if you grow your family legacy, you can potentially grow it to the point that you empower some of your family members to be able to pursue those passions and not have to purely look at what that paycheck balance is when they're making those financial decisions because they have their core covered through the family, and it just makes for huge opportunities there. And one thing I've found when you talk about family legacy is families who talk about money regularly that empower their children tend to be much more prepared than those who don't talk about money. And because what happens is if you haven't had any financial experience, you have to learn everything from scratch. I had a friend of mine say she's in a financial services. She worked for a brokerage firm for many, many years. So she started the family talking together and she goes, yeah, there's 95 of us. And she goes, when one of us is buying a house, we're all buying a house. And the benefit of that is you get to learn from everyone else's experience. You can avoid the extra fees and taxes and things like that that somebody else may have already paid and learned the hard way not to do so. Where if you just go it solo, it's so much harder to be successful. Learn from other people's mistakes. And you can't do that if you don't talk about things. You also have to leave your egos at the door and don't measure someone's worth by their paycheck.
well, and talking about paychecks, there's also the snob appeal of the white collar job,
Mhm.
which at one point in time used to be a high paying job. And it used to be one of the highest paying jobs. But like all things, when something gets to be known by everybody, so everybody seeks it and everybody wants to go to university and everybody wants this, guess what? The other jobs, things like the plumbers and the people that lay pipe and all these things that are absolutely essential to our economy, all of a sudden they become the high paying jobs because they can't find people. And so, while somebody with 3 degrees may be in an office at, $50,000, somebody with, a little bit of trade school is out in the trades at $150,000
Right.
because that's what's required. So, I mean,
Right.
just being open and knowledgeable and not afraid of the numbers and not thinking that it's some sort of dark arcane mystery. That whole thing about mysterious money, I don't know where it came
Right. Right. And there's such we have a lack of trained people in those skilled trades like you're talking about. And if you look at numbers, my husband had this really, really great piece of advice he used to talk to my kids about. And he would say, don't tell me what you want to do, tell me how you want to live. And then let's figure out what you can do to have that lifestyle. So figure out where you want to live, what kind of house you want to have, and what your goals are in life. And then let's sit down and figure out what path is going to get you there. So it's a little switch, but it's been really, really helpful for my kids in making those life decisions.
Well, that's awesome because we've all been told, have a vision for your life where when you have a vision, you know where you're going and life's likely to go that way. And
Mhm.
so many people don't. They just kind of, fall from this to that to the other thing without any real vision or what they want or where they want to go or how they want to see it happen.
Oh, see, and I'm always working towards something because it's fun for me. So otherwise, if you don't have a financial goal, and it doesn't have to be something big. So for me, I like to travel, so I'm always kind of planning and saving for a trip, and it keeps me from spending money on stupid things that aren't going to get me what I want. So I use that as a tool because I am not a natural saver. I did marry a natural saver, and that was a good move on my part. But I do like to spend if I don't have a better use for that money. So that's how I help myself keep on track. Yeah, so I also had a friend that gave me has this great advice. When she goes in a store, she takes a picture of whatever it is, if it's not on her list, and then goes home. And then if she wants it enough to go back, then she buys it. So, but that keeps her away from those impulse purchases. And those small impulse purchases, if you go back and look at how much you spend on that stuff, you could easily take a trip or or do something, or whatever your goal is, buy, start saving for your boat or whatever your life goal is.
Yeah.
So money is this great tool, but we want to be able to use it. And that's what we try to do is help people measure and manage and treat it as a tool. We don't do budgets, we do spending plans. And so that you can plan the best way to use your resources.
Yeah, and that's great because people hate budgets, right? I mean,
Yeah.
oh, I have to live on my budget. No, we just have a plan to get you where you want to go. And you just need to keep following the plan to get there. Isn't that
Yep,
better?
exactly. So,
Anyway, sadly, we have come to the end of our talk time. Time goes by so quickly.
well, thank you so much for the opportunity to visit with you today. Really
It
appreciate it,
was
Mary.
really interesting. And if you look into the descriptions for this, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or wherever you find it, you will be able to find a link to Rebecca and get her to take a look at your plan and see if she can help you organize it a little bit or squeeze it a different direction or whatever she can do for you. So check out the descriptions wherever you find us, and we will see you on Monday.
Sounds great, Mary.